It's just a soft lock against a bunch of decks, and combined with where is it? Helm of Obedience, you can combo out.
Yes. Now the other way.
Sorry, with Rest in Peace and Helm of Obedience combos out.
Yeah, that's correct.
And Rest in Peace Energy Field is also a lock.
Yeah, make sure that you never take any damage.
Right.
So it's an enchantment-based deck, because we do see looks to be a Terminus here on the stack, taking care of a Nimble Mongoose. Robert Wilkinson on the right, up a game with his blue-white countertop deck. It is an enchantment-based combo deck, which is a little bit strange. You know, it puts a bunch of enchantments in play, and they all do work relatively well with each other.
Yes.
On the left here, you're just going to see your standard, typical Rug Delver.
Right.
By Keyan Jafari. We are going to see Keyan play a Delver of Secrets here. Robert going to take his draw, going to put an island into play. You already see a Rest in Peace in his hand, so he is looking to start establishing some of these combos. And Rest in Peace, oddly enough, quite good against Rug Delver, as it shuts down Nimble Mongoose and slows down Tarmogoyf quite a bit as well.
Oh, it does more than slow down Tarmogoyf.
It stops
yeah,
it.
it's just done.
So we'll see if Rest in Peace is going to resolve here or not, if this is worth fighting over. It wouldn't surprise me if they do fight over this one.
I mean, this card is a huge, huge beating on Rug Delver.
And we are going to see a Spell Pierce here from Keyan.
Daniel Walker, if you're in the room,
Robert going to sacrifice a Flooded Strand
Daniel Walker.
to make an attempt to pay for that, but you can see Keyan's hand. He has another Spell Pierce. He also has a Force of Will as well, so I'd be a little bit surprised to see this one resolving.
Yeah, but it's really hard to, you know, this is a spot where Rug Delver gets into trouble, where it has to be using its Force of Wills and multiple Spell Pierces on these sort of, you know, mid-turn plays that aren't, you know, expensive or that integral to hit their opponent's plan, you know? There's a lot of cards in the blue-white countertop deck that Rug has to fight over.
Sure. And you do see Is It Charm, the Spell Pierce mode on that, pay 2, take care of that Rest in Peace. Delver of Secrets flips into Insectile Aberration, and Keyan is coming across for 3, knocking Robert down to 13.
And it's going to be hard for this, you know, Insectile Aberration to hold on long enough to close the game out when there's so many haymakers in the counterbalance deck. Although there is one of the Rug Delver's haymakers right there in this matchup in Sulfuric Vortex.
And that's a card we'll bring up on the screen for you guys here, so that you can see it. It's a very unique card, one that I know that you have played in the past with Burn. Doesn't let players gain life. It's just the start of it, but 2 damage each way every upkeep for each player. So, you know, it's a ticking time bomb basically, and when you're ahead on life, this is favorable for you, as Robert's going to move down to 11 now because of it.
Yep. Not always the easiest card to cast for Rug Delver, as it's double red and 3 mana, but it is devastating once it's in play.
So let's see what Robert's able to do here, as we do see an Energy Field in his hand. You have to be careful with that though, because at any point when a card goes into his own graveyard and you see a Misty Rainforest there in play, that becomes the issue, as you are going to see Energy Field on the screen here shortly for you guys, as Robert is attempting to resolve that.
That's why I'm a little surprised with those extra. He has like a couple of Lanters in his hand. I'm a little surprised he didn't try to Enlighten Tutor for Rest in Peace at the end of the turn, where he could have he could have test spelled, try to like bleed out something with the Rest in Peace, and then actually set up the soft block if both cards were able to resolve.
Now, there are a lot of ways to break out of this Energy Field if you're Keyan. I mean, one of them is simple as Wasteland, but you're going to see Crows and Grip just get that right off of the table. Insectile Aberration come across, knock Robert down to 8. He's going to pass a turn back.
I'm surprised we didn't Crows and Grip the Divining Top, as that would have...
It takes care of both of them, actually.
Yeah, right. Sure. It gets the Divining Top and then the Energy Field off the table.
Sure.
And that top in this deck, especially with, you know, Robert having a fetch land still, that top can do a ton of damage.
Yeah, it's a deck that is heavily reliant on Sensei Divine Top being in play. As you're going to see Robert move down to 7, with the Misty Rainforest. And yeah, if that's something that you can keep in check, either, you know, via Closing Grip or Pithing Needle, some sort of effect, as we're going to see Enlightened Tutor here.
And that's meant by Spell Pierce.
Going to go a long way towards winning the game.
Keyan is getting some pretty impressive value late in the game with his Spell Pierces here.
Yeah, that's why you beat me to the punch there on that one. Surprising to see that counter a one-mana spell at this point in the game.
Especially Enlightened Tutor of all spells.
Yeah. You are going to see a top activation here.
Robert needing to find both a removal spell for the Insectile Aberration and needing to find some answer to Sulfuric Vortex, and not having that much time to do it.
He is under the gun here. 2 angles of attack, as you see lands there, one of which is Mystic Gate. That one's the third from the bottom. Sulfuric Vortex trigger from Keyan, going to knock Robert down to 5. You are going to see Enlightened Tutor here.
So are we going to get Energy Field again?
You do see Force of Will and a blue card there from Keyan in his hand. Looks like he is just simply waiting. There's the Energy Field that you spoke of.
Yeah, earlier in this game, Robert's Swords to Plowshares were hit by a Surgical Extraction, so not a lot of ways to answer that Insectile Aberration other than by locking him out.
See Robert going to attempt to cast an Energy Field here. You're going to see Force of Will, move a blue card. Those are the last 2 cards in Keyan's hand. Going to knock himself down to 15.
And Robert is looking at lethal next turn.
Yeah.
The Aberration knocks him down to 2, and then the Vortex finishes the job.
You're going to see a top activation here.
Seeing if he can find, you know, a Force of Will or a Spell Pierce, something to get this to stick.
But Energy Field's going to bite the dust. You see Jace the Mind Sculptor there, but that's not going to save him either. You see Keyan going to go down to 13. Untap the Insectile Aberration, untap draw. Come across for 3, knock Robert down to 2. And that Sulfuric Vortex is probably going to end up doing it here, and that's it.
Yep.
So Keyan Jafari going to even up this match 1-1. We're going to move to game 3 here.
Another squeaker by Rug Delver. You see that a lot in the control matchups. When it wins, it's often, especially against countertop, because it's rarely a wasteland blowout.
Sure.
It's often just getting in a couple shots, being slightly more efficient, and often Sulfuric Vortex is a big part of the equation too.
Now, taking a look at the sideboard here really quickly, because we did join this match in progress. Of course, Keyan playing Rug Delver. As far as his main deck is concerned, he does have 4 Stifles. You know, singletons that he has. He does have one Flusterstorm, 3 Spell Pierces he's starting, 2 Izzet Charms as well, and he does have 4 copies of Daze as far as ways to interact with Robert. You also saw in that game a Closing Grip, which is a singleton as a sideboard. He also has 2 copies of Sulfuric Vortex, the game winner of that game, 2 copies of Surgical Extraction. And other than that, you're not really going to see a lot of things come in here. I don't really find Tormod's Crypt or Life in the Loam to be all that useful here.
Yeah, and on Robert's side, he has another copy of Terminus, single Ensnaring Bridge, which is excellent against Rug, another Energy Field, and another Humility. So he's got some more, you know, quality Enlightened Tutor targets. All these cards, unfortunately, are on the slow side, I guess Terminus accepted, and are therefore very susceptible to Spell Pierce, which is what you saw a lot of in that game. Pierce, even later on in the game, was able to be very productive. But overall, I think I would want to be on the counterbalance side of this matchup, particularly on the draw. No, sorry, on the play, rather.
On the play, yeah. Try to get everything established. You know, the risky thing here is that you do draw your enchantments in the wrong order. You know, there are definitely some hands here that can get a little bit ugly when you do have 2 copies of Energy Field, 3 copies of Rest in Peace, 3 counterbalance, like an Oblivion Ring, an Attention Sphere, Humility. There are some strange draws that can happen here.
Yeah, it's definitely not the super streamlined, consistent build that we've seen, you know, Joe Lissette dominate the Open Series with over the last couple of months. You get a lot more finicky draws, but you also get a lot more I win the game draws, where your opponent's just locked by energy field, or you're able to just go get a quick Home of Obedience. So there are some upsides to playing this build, but you definitely take a hit in consistency. Both players ready to start off the action. Robert mulling over his action. Momentarily bug-eyed at his hand.
And it looks to be a keep. Both players are going to keep. We're going to see Flooded Strand here knock Robert down at 19. A little bit under 9 minutes left to go in this match, so time of the essence for both of these players as well.
Right, that's another advantage of this build of countertop over the more conventional builds. You can definitely win our game quickly because you actually have some combo draws with Home of Obedience and Rest in Peace to win the game instead of having to just wait for your entreat to show up. Turn 1 Plains and Divining Top for Robert.
Let's see what Keyan can muster here. Is he going to start with a Tropical Island and just pass back? A little bit strange. Again, it's very strange not to see Rug Delver do anything on the first turn.
Yep.
So we're going to see a top activation here on Robert's upkeep. No Ponder, no Mongoose, no Delver Secrets, none of that good stuff. We are actually just going to see a basic island from Robert and pass the turn back. Keyan taking a draw step. We'll see what he's willing to find. I mean, it leads me to believe there might be just a Tarmogoyf incoming here.
Sure.
And we're going to see Delver Secrets.
Do you think he might have left up Spell Pierce Mana on his first turn?
That's what it feels like. So we'll see a draw here from Robert. Going to come firing out with Ancient Tomb. Source of Plowshares, targeting that Delver Secret's able to get around a Spell Pierce there.
Yep. Rare to see the all basic, the 2-color ton of basic land Ancient Tomb deck.
But Ancient Tomb is just a singleton in his deck. He also has a singleton Dust Bowl as well, so some interesting lands that he does have in there. You see a Brainstorm here from Keyan resolving.
Trying to sculpt his hand a little bit, but it's challenging. Like I said, so many haymakers in this build of the blue-white countertop deck. It's hard to cobble together a hand with enough pressure and disruption, especially with Keyan being a little slow out of the gates here.
So we do see a fetch land resolving here, the Flooded Strand. Shuffling away with the Brainstorm. We'll see exactly what Keyan's able to muster here, because he is going to have to get some damage on the board here relatively quickly. Get a board state established for himself. And we are going to see a Nimble Mongoose here, a card that is a little bit more difficult for Robert to deal with. We are also going to see a Sensei's Divining Top activation here on the end step. You see Counterspell, the top card, a couple of lands, the bottom card. Counterspell moves to Robert's hand. You're going to see a Misty Rainforest be played. And he's just going to pass the turn back. So a good turn if you're Keyan there, as nothing does hit the board. You're going to see Wasteland take care of that Ancient Tomb. And we'll see if we can get that Nimble Mongoose up to 3/3 land.
We're going to see a Ponder. It's going to resolve. Robert with Counterspell in hand, but probably wisely electing to not fight over this Ponder.
Yeah, we can do better than that, I'd like to think.
I think Ancient Tomb is the ultimate, your opponent's up to no good land. When your opponent leaves with Ancient Tomb, they're not looking to play a fair game.
No, I think the direct opposite of a fair game is what's in order. Even with this deck, it does help this deck to power out, cards like Humble Obedience.
This is about the most honest Ancient Tomb deck you can imagine, and it's still trying to combo you out or lock you in counterbalance. One of the two.
So we see some Sensei top activations resolving here.
And of course, it's very important for Robert to be clock conscious here.
And we're going to see a Stifle there. A pretty big blowout with that Stifle.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Taking care of that Misty Rainforest with Wasteland and Stifle really choking Robert on mana. You know, 2 turns ago he had 5 mana with the Ancient Tomb. Now he barely has any, as we see Nimble Mongoose coming across again for another 1, almost up to that threshold level due to the cards in his graveyard and that blue Tadella.
And this is not a particularly, you know, Wasteland Stifle susceptible deck.
Yeah.
It's got a fair number of basics and not that many fetches, and Robert's still gotten tagged by him. Looks like his hand is Jason a lot of lands.
So let's say top doesn't seem to be being all that friendly here, as we do see Keyan sacrifice the polluted Delta on the end step.
As a counter spell as well. We're ready for threshold purposes. We're up to 4 cards now.
Yeah, it looks to be 4. There's a couple off screen there for you guys, so we can get official count from our spotter just to make sure you guys at home do know exactly how many cards and how close Keyan is to threshold.
Legacy of competitors, that is time in round 5.
And now we are going to see a surgical extraction.
Beginning up to 5 additional turn procedure.
I can't tell if he targeted Swords to Plowshares or something else.
Well, the only other cards in the graveyards are lands. I would be surprised if we got that.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he targeted lands as well. You do see Robert's hand of Oblivion Ring, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Tundra, and a counter spell. So none of those cards are going to deal with Nimble Mongoose in an efficient manner. You do see Keyan writing down the contents of that hand, and we will see some cards get removed here in just a moment due to surgical extraction. Also, a nice thing about this here, Patrick, is that now Keyan is working with full information on what Robert has sideboarded in and out.
Right. I mean, I assume he's going to be seeing a lot of Wrath effects. Some Rest in Peace energy field type action. I assume that Ensnaring Bridge came in as well.
Yeah. So if you're Robert now, you really are looking for a Rest in Peace to be able to slow down this Nimble Mongoose. And we do see a Delver of Secrets now. He's going to spin the top in response, see if that does resolve, and there is a Rest in Peace.
Yep.
And
nice
within
draw.
those cards, so that is going to be helpful there. And the interesting thing about that surgical extraction, though it did remove Swords to Plowshares, it actually did give, Robert a way to shuffle his deck.
Yeah, which
so
you
that's
really
a big
need.
deal.
Registration stage.
So the threshold count that we were going to get for you guys, completely irrelevant now, as Rest in Peace is in, but we do see a Stifle.
The one to know
Keyan.
about.
Wasteland taking care of the Tundra, and we see him coming across for 4, 3 in the air, 1 on the ground.
In that Wasteland, even though Robert has a lot of mana to work with, is significant as it allows him to not play Jason's counterspell back up.
Yep. We do have Robert down to 9 now.
Is there a humility there?
That is a humility. You also do see a Tundra within those cards. And the last one is a Helm of Obedience.
Oh, wow.
So he's actually very close to the combo kill. Of course, he is staring at 4 untapped lands against Rug Delver, so he has to be careful how he does this. But again, he is being pressured right now by Keyan, and there are lightning bolts in that deck. So how much time does he actually have?
I think he should lead out with Jace here, because I think that's almost certainly going to draw a counter, and you can get closer to setting up your kill.
Yep.
Because now with the Nimble Mongoose not threshold, they can't really allow, you know, the Insectile Aberration can't really get unsummoned. It's too much of Keyan's clock, rather. So he almost has to fight over this, and then that sets him up for Helm of Obedience.
You see, he's going to come out here with Oblivion Ring with Counterspell backup.
And see, I would actually rather... He's going to Stifle that comes into play trigger.
Yep. I'm a little surprised that he just let that resolve and didn't fight over that, as you do just want to get the counterspells out of his hand, I think, here.
Yeah, especially since you have Helm, it's like if you counterspell back, you're happy if he answers with any of his permission.
Yeah, even Daze.
Yeah, and it's fine because you actually need all your mana to set up what he's trying to set up.
Again, this is something that we saw yesterday quite a bit. But again, you don't get the extra points for ending the game with cards in your hand.
Right.
You have to get those cards out of your hand at some point. Ending the game with a counterspell in your hand, especially one that he can't cast now, as you see Spell Pierce.
Right, he might have gotten, like, if he counterspells last turn over on that Oblivion Ring, he might get that Pierce out of that hand.
Yeah. Now we do see Keyan attack Robert down to 1. Lightning Bolt, of course, lethal here. But now the problem here for Robert is that Jace the Mind Sculptor doesn't do anything.
Right.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
And neither does the humility that he's been floating through the top either.
Right, because the 1/1s are good enough to finish it off.
And you're going to see a Mystic Gate. You're going to see Jace the Mind Sculptor.
And I guess he can still find Energy Field this turn.
He can't find Energy Field. He can't also find Terminus. But what we do find is a handshake here, and Keyan Jafari winning 2-1 over Robert Wilkinson.
Very impressive win. I mean, Robert had a lot of powerful tools to work with that way, and Rug Delver was able to just barely sneak it out. Like you said, I think he needed to counterspell back when that Oblivion Ring got stifled, because you got to trade with whatever is in his hand.
Yep.
If your whole plan is to try to helm him out.
And as we see both players wrapping it up here, Keyan Jafari going to move over to 5-0, it looks like, with Rug Delver. Robert Wilkinson, his first loss on the day with his blue-white countertop deck list. And as you said, it is not a traditional blue-white countertop deck list. More traditional ones that we do see are ones run by Joe Lossett, who is in attendance this weekend. How do you feel about this one with the kind of combo kill, the energy fields, the rest in peace, versus the more traditional flavors?
Well,